Ethan's starship drifted through the silent darkness at the edge of the outer rim, far from any civilized system. Stars twinkled like distant lanterns, indifferent to the small figure navigating between them. He had been traveling alone for months, mapping abandoned planets and gathering rare minerals that could be traded for supplies. For many in the galaxy, humans were fragile, unpredictable, and often underestimated. Ethan, however, had learned to survive not through sheer strength, but through observation, patience, and cleverness. Every choice, every small action could mean the difference between life and death. The outer rim was unforgiving. Meteors cut across the void, storms tore across barren worlds, and predatory creatures roamed the surface of planets untouched by civilization. Yet Ethan had grown comfortable in isolation, relying on his instincts and a few trusted tools. His ship was old, patched together with parts scavenged from countless wrecks, but it was sturdy enough to carry him through whatever dangers the rim presented. One day, as he approached a rocky, desolate planet on the edge of his scanners, something unusual caught his attention. A faint energy pulse flickered across his instruments. It was weak, irregular, and not like the usual signals from minerals or automated weather stations. Ethan frowned, leaning closer to the console. The pulse seemed almost alive, rhythmic and urgent. Curiosity tugged at him. He adjusted the ship's course, descending through the planet's thin atmosphere. The surface was a rugged expanse of jagged rocks and shifting sands. Nothing lived here, or so it seemed. As he landed the ship on a relatively flat plateau, the source of the energy pulse became painfully clear. A massive creature lay half buried in the sand, its limbs twisted, its body scarred. Its scales shimmered faintly, catching the dim light like fractured glass. The creature's eyes, wide and intelligent, reflected pain and fear, yet there was something else, a spark of understanding. Ethan's heart raced. He had never seen a being like this. It was larger than a human, taller than his ship, and its 6 limbs were torn and bleeding. Its breathing was shallow, uneven, and labored. Most explorers would have fled. Most humans would have called for reinforcements. Ethan did neither. He felt a surge of empathy. Some things, he realized, demanded action, regardless of danger. He approached slowly, speaking softly not to the creature but to himself. "Hey, it's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." He unclipped his medkit and knelt beside it, careful not to alarm the beast. His hands moved with precision, cleaning the worst of the wounds and applying a makeshift antiseptic. The creature flinched at first, but then stayed still, almost as if it understood that he meant no harm. Night fell quickly on the planet and the temperature dropped sharply. Ethan knew he could not leave the creature exposed to the elements. He dragged whatever supplies he had, blankets, energy packs, and some makeshift supports, to create a shelter. It was fragile, a patchwork of materials, but it was better than nothing. The creature, sensing the small safety he offered, rested against the makeshift wall with a low, rumbling sigh. Its eyes remained open, always watching, but there was no hostility. As hours passed, Ethan faced challenges he had not anticipated. A sudden sandstorm whipped across the plateau, tearing at the shelter and forcing him to anchor it with all his strength. He felt fatigue gnawing at him, but he ignored it. The creature needed him. He stayed awake through the storm, holding the shelter against the wind, speaking to the creature in low tones, telling it stories of his journeys, of the planets he had visited, and the stars he had counted. Whether it understood the words mattered little. It was the presence, the care, the assurance that he gave that mattered most. When the storm passed, Ethan's body was exhausted, his arms bruised, but he had not failed. The creature's breathing had steadied slightly, and it even managed a weak, vibrating sound, almost like a purr. Ethan allowed himself a brief smile. He had no idea what kind of species this was, whether it was dangerous, intelligent, or capable of communication, but he knew one thing: he had made a difference. The following day, Ethan scavenged the area for anything useful. He found a few small plants that could serve as rudimentary nutrition, some water trapped in rock crevices, and a patch of minerals that could be used to reinforce his shelter. He returned to the creature and carefully offered the water, letting it drink first. It hesitated, then accepted, and Ethan felt a strange relief wash over him. Small victories, he knew, were sometimes the most important. By the evening, the creature had regained enough strength to move its head and limbs slightly. Ethan noticed subtle changes in its energy signature through his portable scanner. It was alive, and more than that, it was responsive. He realized he had earned a fragile trust. And trust, especially with beings unknown and alien, was more valuable than any reward or material gain. Yet, as he sat beside it, repairing what little supplies he had left, a faint, almost imperceptible pulse emitted from the creature's body. Ethan did not notice it at first, but the pulse was real. It radiated outward, beyond the atmosphere, into the depths of space. The creature's body seemed to hum with energy, a signal that could not be ignored. Many light years away, aboard a massive warship that gleamed like a shard of obsidian, the pulse was detected. Commander Selara, known across the galaxy as a ruthless force, the woman who had crushed fleets and toppled planets with calculated precision, noticed it immediately. She had hunted criminals, rebels, and even rogue systems with equal efficiency, yet this pulse intrigued her in a way no threat ever had. Selara did not speak as her aides and sensors analyzed the signal. She simply stared, her sharp eyes narrowing. The pulse was weak, erratic, yet undeniably powerful, and what caught her attention most was the human signature attached to it. Humans were rarely involved in anything remarkable at this scale. They were fragile, impulsive, and insignificant in galactic affairs. Yet here, on a barren planet, one human had somehow touched something extraordinary. Back on the planet, Ethan worked tirelessly. He reinforced the creature's legs, created supports for its injured limbs, and used advanced adhesives from his kit to stabilize fractures. The creature, surprisingly patient, allowed him to work. Ethan whispered encouragements, telling it he would not leave, that he would see it recover. Hours passed. Shadows stretched across the plateau, and the first stars began to peek through the night sky. As midnight approached, Ethan finally allowed himself to rest, leaning against a rock while keeping an eye on the creature. Exhaustion pressed on him like a weight, yet he felt a strange exhilaration. This was what being human meant, he thought. Resilience, empathy, courage in the face of danger. It was more than survival, it was care, it was choice, and it was recognition that life, no matter how alien, was worth protecting. The creature stirred slightly, letting out a low, rumbling sound that seemed almost like gratitude. Its eyes glowed faintly in the dark, reflecting the light of Ethan's portable lamp. In that moment, a connection formed between them. Not spoken, not yet understood, but undeniable. A bond that transcended species, that demanded respect, courage, and a willingness to act when it mattered most. Miles away, Selara's ship adjusted its course. Her fleet followed, silent and massive, yet she did not issue orders to attack. She did not need to. She simply watched, her mind analyzing the data streaming in from her sensors. The human, small and unarmed, had earned the attention of a creature that pulsed with energy unlike anything she had catalogued. She was intrigued, and intrigue for her was a dangerous thing. It often led to obsession, and in her life, obsession rarely ended without consequence. Ethan remained unaware of the approaching fleet. He focused entirely on the creature, helping it sit upright, adjusting the shelter to block the increasing chill of the desert night. Hours passed, and he continued to work with care, patience, and determination. Each small success was a step closer to survival, each act of courage a quiet testament to what humans could achieve when they chose to rise above fear. By dawn, the creature had managed to lift itself partially, testing its injured limbs. Ethan cheered softly, clapping his hands, his face breaking into a genuine smile. He had done it. Against all odds, he had saved this magnificent being. The pulse of energy had stabilized, stronger and more regular, a sign that the creature was healing and alive. It was at that moment, high above the planet, that Selara's fleet emerged from the darkness of space, massive warships reflecting the light of the rising twin suns. The pulse had drawn her here, and she now observed the scene below, unseen and silent. The human, alone and determined, had captured her attention. She had faced countless beings across the galaxy, none so simple yet so extraordinary. And now she would come down to see this human for herself. Ethan, unaware of the attention he had garnered, continued his work, speaking softly to the creature. "You're going to be okay," he whispered. "We'll make it through. Just stay with me." The creature responded with a low vibration, a sound that was almost musical, almost human. Ethan nodded, feeling a sense of pride and connection he had never known. The galaxy was vast, full of dangers, wonders, and beings of unimaginable power. Yet here, on this small, desolate planet, a human had shown courage, compassion, and ingenuity. And somewhere out there, a woman whose name struck fear into the hearts of billions had taken notice. Ethan did not know what the future held. He did not know that in a matter of hours, the galaxy's most feared woman would set foot on this planet, curious to see what kind of human could earn the loyalty and trust of a dying alien beast. But he did know one thing. He had done what he believed was right. He had acted when others would have hesitated. He had shown the strength of humanity in the smallest and grandest way possible. And as the first light of dawn stretched across the barren landscape, painting the rocks and sand in shades of gold and crimson, the faint hum of the creature's energy pulsed steadily into the sky, unnoticed by most, but not by all. Somewhere in the darkness of space, that pulse had already awakened a spark of interest that would change everything. The rising twin suns bathed the barren planet in harsh light, casting long shadows over the rocky plateau. Ethan stirred, already awake, checking the creature beside him. Its breathing was stronger now, more even, though scars and wounds still marked its massive body. The pulse of energy it emitted had become regular, almost rhythmic, as if it were calling out to someone or something. Ethan had no idea that his actions the previous night had attracted far more attention than he could have imagined. High above, Commander Selara's warship remained hidden in orbit, her sensors trained on the plateau. She had watched Ethan through the night, observing his care and patience with the alien creature. Most beings would have panicked, abandoned the injured, or attempted to kill it out of fear. But this human had stayed, risking his life to help. She found herself fascinated. The galaxy had underestimated humans for centuries, dismissing them as fragile and insignificant. Yet here was one defying all expectations, showing strength and ingenuity in ways that no other species had. Selara's curiosity had grown into something more. She had faced countless leaders, warriors, and strategists across the stars, and few had impressed her. But Ethan's combination of intelligence, courage, and empathy was unique. She had no interest in making an enemy of him, at least not yet. Instead, she wanted to see what this human was capable of, how far he could go, and whether he truly deserved the attention of the galaxy's most feared woman. Ethan continued his work on the creature, unaware of the approaching warship. He gathered rocks and sand to create a more secure shelter, reinforcing it against the desert winds. He tended to the creature's wounds, cleaning and dressing them carefully, ensuring that its injuries would not worsen. The creature's 6 limbs were cumbersome to manage, but Ethan had found ways to support them with ropes and makeshift braces. He worked silently, methodically, his mind focused entirely on the task at hand. As the day progressed, Ethan attempted to feed the creature. He had collected some small plants and nutrient gels from his ship, combining them into a paste. The alien hesitated at first, its eyes narrowing with suspicion, but hunger won over. It consumed the paste slowly, carefully, and Ethan watched with a mixture of relief and fascination. He had never bonded with a creature like this before, yet there was a growing sense of understanding between them. Hours later, a distant vibration beneath the ground caught Ethan's attention. He froze, scanning the horizon. The vibration grew stronger, accompanied by a subtle hum in the air. Then, from the sky, he noticed the glint of metal reflecting sunlight. A massive shadow passed over the plateau, and Ethan realized he was no longer alone. The warship descended silently, its presence intimidating and overwhelming. It hovered just above the ground, massive enough to blot out portions of the sky. Ethan instinctively moved closer to the creature, instinctively shielding it, though he had no weapons that could threaten such a vessel. A ramp extended from the ship, and a figure stepped forward, Commander Solara herself. Her armor gleamed darkly, reflecting the sunlight in a way that made her seem almost otherworldly. Her eyes were sharp, assessing, yet her expression betrayed no immediate threat. Ethan took a step forward, cautious but not afraid. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice steady. He had faced dangerous situations before, but there was something different about this woman. Her reputation had preceded her, though he had only heard rumors. Stories of her ruthlessness, her tactical genius, and the fear she inspired across the galaxy had reached even the outer rim. And yet, here she was, observing him without immediate hostility. Solara's gaze shifted to the creature, then back to Ethan. "You have done something remarkable," she said, her voice calm, almost disinterested, yet carrying the weight of authority. "Few beings would risk themselves to save something they do not understand. Fewer still would earn its trust." Ethan blinked, unsure whether to be flattered or cautious. "It was injured. I couldn't just leave it to die," he replied simply. His honesty was instinctive, uncalculated, and Solara found it intriguing. "Most would have fled or killed it to remove the risk," Solara said, her tone neutral. "You chose differently. That is unusual." She stepped closer, scanning the creature with a small handheld device. The alien did not react aggressively, though it raised its head slightly. Its eyes glimmered, intelligent and alert, and Ethan felt a strange pride. He had earned its trust. Solara's attention returned to him. "Do you understand what you have done?" she asked. "That pulse you triggered, the one the galaxy felt, it is not ordinary. It has drawn my attention, and the attention of others who would wish to exploit or destroy such a being." Ethan frowned, considering her words. I didn't know," he said. "I was just trying to help." Solara's lips curved slightly, almost imperceptibly. "That is what makes you different," she said. "You act without seeking reward or recognition, and yet you influence events far beyond your understanding. That is a rare quality." The alien beast stirred, its massive body shifting as it observed Solara. Ethan instinctively moved between them, not out of fear of her but to protect the creature. Solara did not react negatively. Instead, she watched quietly, intrigued by his instinctive loyalty. "You trust it," she stated, more than asked. "Yes," Ethan replied firmly. "I can't leave it alone. It's alive and it needs help." Solara studied him for a long moment. "You have courage," she said finally, "but courage alone is not enough. There will be tests. The galaxy is not kind to those who cannot survive its trials. You will face challenges, and your decisions will determine not only your fate but the fate of those around you." Ethan nodded, accepting the challenge without hesitation. "I understand," he said. "I'll do what's necessary." Solara gestured subtly, and a series of drones descended from her ship, scanning the creature and the surroundings. They moved efficiently, quickly, analyzing the terrain, the air, and the energy pulse emanating from the alien. Ethan watched them warily, but he did not interfere. He had nothing to hide, and the creature sensed that, remaining calm. Hours passed as the drones completed their scans. Solara observed the data, her sharp mind processing the information at a speed unmatched by most. She noted the creature's strength, its energy emissions, and its potential for survival. But it was not just the creature that interested her. It was Ethan. The human had demonstrated an unusual combination of intelligence, empathy, and adaptability. He had survived in isolation, cared for a powerful and unknown creature, and now faced the attention of one of the most feared women in the galaxy without flinching. Finally, Selara spoke. "You will need to prove yourself further," she said. "This world is dangerous and there are threats you cannot yet see. Survival will require more than courage. It will require ingenuity, quick thinking, and an understanding of the creatures and the environment around you. Are you prepared?" Ethan met her gaze without fear. "I am," he said simply. A distant rumble interrupted their conversation. Ethan's heart sank as he realized the source. The planet itself was unstable. A nearby canyon was collapsing, rocks tumbling toward the plateau where he and the creature stood. He acted instantly, shouting to Selara, though she made no move. He grabbed ropes and supports, reinforcing the creature's makeshift shelter and securing it against the falling debris. The creature reacted as well, moving carefully, guided by a subtle understanding that Ethan had taught it through gentle commands and gestures. Together, human and beast worked instinctively, surviving the sudden disaster. Selara watched silently, her expression unreadable, though a spark of approval flickered in her eyes. When the dust settled, Ethan stood panting, exhausted but alive. The creature remained beside him, its pulse steady, its energy vibrant. Selara finally stepped forward. "You handled that well," she said. "Few could have managed so efficiently under pressure. You are remarkable human," Ethan shrugged modestly. "I did what I had to do," he replied. Selara's gaze softened, a rare occurrence. "You remind me why I sometimes wonder if humans are underestimated," she said. "You are not merely resilient. You are resourceful, empathetic, and capable of earning loyalty that others cannot." The alien beast let out a low, vibrating sound, almost as if it were responding to Selara. She studied the creature, noting its intelligence and adaptability. Few species in the galaxy could form such a bond with a human, and she realized that Ethan's actions had revealed something extraordinary about humanity itself. As evening approached, the trio, human, alien beast, and feared commander, sat quietly on the plateau. Ethan tended to the creature one last time, adjusting its supports and offering a small amount of food. Selara remained nearby, observing silently but no longer as a threat. The dynamic had shifted. Respect had begun to replace fear. Selara finally spoke again. "The galaxy will notice you now," she said. "They will see the human who saved a dying alien, who earned its trust, and who faced me without flinching. That is a rare story, and it will spread quickly." Ethan nodded, understanding the weight of her words. He had never sought fame or recognition, but he could not ignore the reality. His actions had consequences far beyond the barren plateau. The creature stirred, nudging Ethan gently with its massive head. He smiled and whispered, "We did it. We made it through." Selara's eyes softened briefly, an almost imperceptible acknowledgement of the bond forming between human and beast. "You have potential, Ethan," she said quietly. "Potential that could change the galaxy if nurtured wisely. Do not waste it." As night fell, the three of them, human, alien beast, and the galaxy's most feared woman, remained together on the plateau. Silence settled over the land, broken only by the creature's steady breathing and the distant hum of Selara's ship. The galaxy was watching, and for the first time, Ethan realized that his small acts of courage and empathy had drawn attention far beyond his understanding. The future was uncertain, filled with challenges, dangers, and opportunities. Yet one thing was clear. Ethan's journey had only just begun, and the bond he had formed with the alien beast, and the notice he had earned from Selara, would shape events across the stars in ways no one could predict. The twin suns had long set, leaving the plateau bathed in the silver light of distant stars. Ethan sat beside the alien beast, checking its pulse one last time before resting. The creature's wounds had healed remarkably, its energy steady and vibrant. Even the harsh desert of the outer rim seemed less threatening now, softened by the presence of the two beings that had become his companions. High above, Commander Selara's warship remained in orbit, but the tension that had once filled the air was gone. Now curiosity had replaced suspicion, and respect had quietly taken root. Ethan had grown accustomed to the rhythm of life with the creature. He had learned its subtle signals, the flick of a limb or the shift of its weight that indicated mood or need. It had become more than a responsibility. It was a companion, a creature that mirrored the same intelligence and trust that he offered. The alien's pulse had stabilized so completely that Ethan could feel it resonating in the ground beneath them, a silent but powerful testament to the bond they shared. Selara observed silently from above, her mind analyzing every movement, every interaction. She had witnessed many strange phenomena in her life, but the connection between human and alien before her was unique. Humans were often underestimated, dismissed as fragile or reckless, but Ethan's actions had proven otherwise. He had faced danger without hesitation, shown empathy where others would have fled, and earned loyalty that even she, a woman of infinite strategic cunning, could not command so easily. As the first hint of dawn approached, a subtle vibration shook the plateau. Ethan looked up, immediately alert. The alien beast bristled beside him, muscles tensing, eyes glowing faintly. Ethan reached for a small device on his belt, scanning the horizon. He saw movement, something large, deliberate, and fast approaching from the far side of the plateau. His heart raced, but he stayed calm, drawing on instincts honed over months of isolation and survival. A fleet of small ships descended from the horizon, their designs alien and aggressive. Mercenaries, scavengers, or hunters, Ethan could not be certain. But their intent was clear. They were here to capture, or worse, the creature he had saved. He had no weapons capable of stopping such a force directly. Panic would achieve nothing. Instead, he focused on the creature, whispering calm instructions. The beast responded immediately, moving its massive limbs with precision, positioning itself strategically to defend both of them. Selara, observing from orbit, smiled faintly. This was the test she had anticipated, the true measure of human ingenuity and courage. She could have intervened and destroyed the intruders with a single command, but she allowed Ethan to face the challenge on his own. How he handled this moment would determine her final judgment. Ethan scanned the terrain quickly. The plateau was uneven, littered with rocks and crevices. He needed a way to use the environment to his advantage. His mind raced, formulating a plan that relied not on firepower, but on strategy and clever use of the alien's abilities. He instructed the creature to draw the intruders closer, leading them into the narrow canyons where their numbers would become a disadvantage. The intruders, sensing easy prey, followed eagerly. As they entered the canyon, Ethan activated several small devices he had placed earlier, simple but effective traps that leveraged gravity, sand, and balance. Rocks shifted, creating barriers and obstacles that slowed the intruders' advance. The alien beast moved with astonishing precision, blocking paths, and using its size to create fear. The human and the alien worked in perfect tandem, a team guided by trust, intelligence, and mutual understanding. The mercenaries realized too late that they had underestimated their quarry. They attempted to adapt, but Ethan's quick thinking and the alien's strength turned every action against them. Rocks fell to block paths, sand traps sent ships skidding, and the alien's roar, amplified by the canyon walls, created a sound that unsettled even the most seasoned soldiers. By the time the intruders retreated, Ethan and the creature stood unscathed, victorious through wit, courage, and cooperation rather than brute force. Solara watched the events unfold with keen interest. Humans rarely demonstrated such resourcefulness. Most would have panicked or failed entirely. Ethan, however, had shown the quintessential strength of humanity, the ability to think beyond immediate danger, to act with empathy, and to form alliances that others could not even imagine. The pulse of the alien had drawn her in, but it was Ethan's actions that cemented her fascination. Later, as the plateau grew quiet again, Ethan allowed himself a moment to breathe. The creature nudged him gently, its energy pulsating with what seemed like gratitude. He smiled, feeling a rare sense of accomplishment and connection. In the vast galaxy, where humans were often dismissed, he had proven that courage, ingenuity, and compassion could overcome almost anything. Solara finally descended from orbit in a smaller shuttle, landing a safe distance from Ethan and the creature. Her presence was imposing, yet her posture was calm, deliberate. She stepped forward, her eyes never leaving Ethan. "You have exceeded my expectations," she said, her voice carrying both authority and a rare hint of admiration. Few beings could survive that encounter, and even fewer would have acted with such intelligence and restraint. Ethan nodded, acknowledging her words without arrogance. "I did what I had to do," he said simply. "I couldn't let it die, and I couldn't let them take it." Solara studied him carefully, as if weighing not just his words but the essence of who he was. "Humans are often underestimated," she said finally. "They are unpredictable, weak in appearance, and sometimes reckless. Yet you have demonstrated qualities that the galaxy rarely expects from your kind: courage, empathy, intelligence, and loyalty. These traits could change everything if nurtured correctly." Ethan felt a strange mixture of pride and humility. He had never sought recognition, only survival and compassion. And yet here he was, standing before one of the most feared figures in the galaxy, earning her respect through actions rather than words. The alien beast shifted beside him, sensing the subtle shift in Solara's attitude. It had learned to trust her presence in a limited way, recognizing that she was no immediate threat, and that her interest in them was cautious but genuine. Its eyes met Solara's briefly, and she regarded it with a mix of curiosity and respect. Few creatures had earned that attention from her. Few humans had earned that attention either. Solara continued, her voice measured. "You have survived, not by power alone, but by understanding. You know the value of life, of trust, and of clever action. These are rare traits in the galaxy. I will not offer friendship lightly, but I will extend an opportunity. Travel with me, learn, and observe. There are forces beyond this rim that will test even the strongest beings. You may yet play a role in shaping the future of the galaxy." Ethan hesitated, considering her offer. He had spent his life traveling alone, relying on his own skills and instincts. Yet the thought of seeing more of the galaxy, learning and protecting not just one creature but potentially many, stirred a sense of purpose he had never felt before. "I will go," he said finally. "But I go with one condition: the creature goes with me." Solara's eyes flickered, a rare smile appearing. "Agreed," she said. "It seems even the most feared figures must sometimes respect bonds formed through courage and compassion." With that, Solara activated her shuttle, allowing Ethan and the alien beast to board. The massive warship in orbit lowered its systems, signaling readiness for departure. As they lifted off the plateau, the alien's pulse continued to resonate, stronger and steadier than ever. It was as if the creature, once dying and alone, now had a future filled with protection, exploration, and partnership. Ethan gazed out at the planet shrinking beneath them, its harsh beauty now tinged with memories of struggle, care, and triumph. He had acted when others would have hesitated, and his choices had drawn the attention of a figure whose presence alone commanded fear across the stars. Yet she had not destroyed him. She had recognized him. Solara remained silent, her gaze fixed on the stars ahead. She had seen countless beings rise and fall, conquer and fail, yet few had ever impressed her as Ethan had. Humanity was often dismissed, underestimated and undervalued, but in this one individual she had witnessed a spark that could not be ignored. The galaxy itself seemed to pulse with possibility, and she was eager to see where it would lead. Hours passed in silence, broken only by the occasional sound of the alien beast shifting or the hum of the ship's engines. Ethan studied the creature, noting subtle improvements in its strength and energy. He realized that his efforts had not only saved a life but had created a partnership, a bond that transcended species. In that moment, he understood something vital about humanity. True strength was measured not by domination, but by courage, compassion, and the ability to inspire loyalty and trust in others. The ship entered a region of space filled with asteroid fields and drifting debris. Solara watched as Ethan navigated the obstacles with remarkable skill. Even in situations where experience alone would fail, he relied on intuition, observation, and clever problem-solving. She felt a growing sense of respect, and something else, an understanding that humanity's underestimated qualities could shift the balance of power in ways she had never considered. As they emerged from the debris, the stars spread out before them like a tapestry. Ethan allowed himself a quiet smile, feeling the thrill of discovery and the weight of responsibility. Solara, observing from her console, finally spoke. "You have proven yourself, Ethan, not through combat alone, but through intellect, courage, and empathy. These are traits that could influence the galaxy far beyond what you imagine." Ethan nodded. "I just did what I thought was right. And that," Solara said softly, "is why you are remarkable." The alien beast stirred beside him, emitting a low, vibrating hum that seemed almost like approval. Ethan patted its massive head gently. They had survived, they had triumphed, and together they had earned the attention of the galaxy's most feared woman. The future was uncertain, but for the first time, Ethan felt that humanity's potential might be recognized, valued, and even feared, not for cruelty or aggression, but for courage, empathy, and ingenuity. As the warship jumped into hyperspace, carrying human, alien, and commander into the unknown, Ethan understood that their journey had only just begun. The galaxy was vast, filled with dangers, opportunities, and forces beyond comprehension. Yet through trust, courage, and clever action, even a single human could leave a mark powerful enough to ripple across the stars. And in that vast expanse, filled with darkness and light, one human had already begun to change the story of the galaxy forever.